Just a note about the Washington football team. It seems their name is going to be changed to move away from the Redskins and that it's sort of a TBD situation. All the reports and sources I used for this episode did call it their former name of the Redskins. Welcome to Criminality Podcast, the podcast we started because loving reality TV isn't a crime. Melissa, hi.
Hi, Rebekah. How are you?
I'm great. It's been a weird day. I think
Yeah?
for both of us, different reasons.
Yeah.
Instagram was down all day. That was revealing a lot about how I spend my time. I don't know about you. Still down. Checked one more time. Yep, still not there. It was weird. It really did expose that I might have a small problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's up though. It's back.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, and I told you today, I actually took Instagram off my phone because I was just having one of those days where I just didn't need all the Instagramness, and I might have taken it down. I think I could have contributed to Instagram going down. They're like, Melissa's not here anymore.
Yeah.
Shut
What's
it down.
the point? What's the point? This is not unrelated. I think it's so interesting, actually, that you had to go through the pain of taking it down on a day when literally it was taken from everybody, though. Kind of.
Yeah, I know,
kind of
exactly.
A wash, but
I could have really powered through and dealt with my emotions like an adult instead of being like, not doing this today, delete.
no, I think that's really wise. That's a good self-care practice. I support it, and I'm so glad it's back.
Yeah.
What else is going on? I feel like we have news. Not so much news, but reminders. We are on YouTube, so
Yes.
if you want to watch us talk and tell our stories, you can do that on our channel, which is Criminalityshow. And we also just got a nice little batch of new reviews from listeners, which was
Yay.
so nice. They were so great. So thank you to everybody who did that. Melissa will be sending you some stickers.
Yay.
And we just really appreciate that. We always love to hear that you guys are enjoying the show, and we welcome ideas for topics.
Please. I think we would both. We have our ideas, and I swear I haven't picked one off of the list that we have going.
Well, it's funny. We started a joint list, but we like surprising each other. So I actually don't put my ideas up there anymore.
Same.
But I could always use ideas because sometimes, it's endless. The truth is there's an endless amount of content we could explore, but I would love to hear what people want to hear.
For sure.
That's always good for a
No, that's true. Whatever you say, we're going to do the opposite. That's kind of how we do things here. Yeah, I'm very excited about your story this week. I know what your story is this week, so
You do.
but I'm still excited. I love the story.
I mean, there's fireworks behind me. If that doesn't help you get pumped, I don't know what else I could do.
You and Katy Perry, man.
Exactly. So, yeah, this is going to be a good one. I personally just love the city of Washington, D.C., and that's where we're going to spend the bulk of our time. Actually, I think the whole time. Have you ever been to Washington, D.C.? I know you're from Florida, so have you ever made it up here?
I like the way you asked that. I have been to Washington, D.C. 2 times. One time I won a trip to Washington, D.C. when I was a senior in high school
That's so cool.
with the rural electricity company. Somehow they literally had a contest, and my school, I had 20 people in my class. They nominated me because I was the only loser that would be really excited about it. And I had to answer questions, and the last question was, who would you want to have dinner with? And the lady across, I said Jesus, and then the lady across from me had red hair, and I said Julia Roberts. And I got a trip to Washington, D.C.
Wait.
That's
amazing.
No, that's truly the story. I don't even think there's any more details, but go ahead.
But were you the only student? Did you travel with a company?
Oh, yeah, I went
electric
with
company?
all you're thinking of the electric
This sounds
company,
actually like
the
a
show.
scam.
No, this was different people from rural areas got chosen to represent. So I won for my county.
Got it.
And there was 2 other people that were there for my county.
Okay, I'll allow it. I was going to need a word with your parents.
No. But it was so cool. We got to do so much stuff. I got to see a John Ritter play before he passed.
You mentioned that.
Center.
That's right. Oh my gosh, that came up last episode, I think.
Yeah, it was incredible. So it was one of the best trips of my life. Very little supervision. Should have had way more, but I loved it. It was great.
Good, good. And I only asked, have you been there? Because I don't want to assume. Like, I'm from the tri-state area, so I grow up going to DC almost every year on a school trip. It's drivable.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want to take for granted that people live in Idaho and California and Guam or whatever, and like maybe they haven't gotten to go.
You simply asked if I went, and I went on a 3-minute conversation about
I wanted
lack of school supervision and rural electricity companies.
I just didn't. Yeah, and that was more than I bargained for, and I loved every second of it. So good. So you can imagine the city, right? You can picture it. It's just such a beautiful city. I have to say, like, I really, really like it. Love where my daughter ended up in college, but she looked at a lot of schools there, and I would have loved it if she'd gone there too.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get into it. Melissa, I'm going to read an email to you because that's always riveting audio content.
Today it would have been with Instagram and Facebook down.
That's true. I'm sure actual ideas were born into the world today because people weren't looking at Instagram at work. I'm going to read an email to you. This email is an actual copy of one that was sent by the special assistant to the Secretary of Defense at the White House. I will read it verbatim, then I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions.
Sure.
Good morning. The arrival ceremony, which was scheduled to be outdoors, was canceled due to inclement weather. They're having a very small one inside the White House with very limited space. I'm still working on tickets for tonight's dinner. I will call or email as soon as I get word, one way or another. Michelle. So, Melissa, if you got this email, how would you interpret it? What would you do?
I would think if there was going to be a ticket available for me that I would hear from this lady later. And if I don't hear from her, there isn't a ticket available for me, but she just didn't have time to write me. I assume I'm not invited anywhere, so it's easy for me.
So you can kind of lean into that assumption from the get-go. So you wouldn't just show up and hope for the best.
No. Literally never. I might not even show up if I was invited.
Yeah. I mean, not a bad play given it's the White House. So to give a little more context, this email was addressed to a Mr. Tareq Salahi, and it was the last correspondence he received, which came in at 8:46 a.m. on November 24th, 2009, the night that he and his wife, Michaele, would infamously, brazenly crash a state dinner at the White House. I assume you heard this little event that happened in our country.
I'm aware.
You're aware?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was everywhere. I mean, we all got to watch it play out on the one-hit wonder Bravo's Real Housewives of DC, but even prior to that, it was all over the news. Have you ever crashed a party?
Oh my gosh,
I'm guessing no. Yeah.
No. Have you ever crashed a party?
I actually have. I was thinking about this when writing this, and I was shocked to remember it's probably the most adventurous / rebellious thing I did in high school. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening. But I grew up in a college town, and somebody found out that you could enter into one of the buildings where they had parties. So they didn't have sororities. They called them eating clubs because it was kind of bougie. Okay. And you could go up a fire escape in the back into one of the eating clubs, go into a bathroom, and then just emerge into the party as if you belonged there. Oh. So me and some friends did that once, and I think I've blocked out everything else that happened because I definitely wasn't the ringleader. I'm not sure. I'm not really trying to I really wasn't. I was just yeah, I'll totally go. And I was shaking up the fire escape. I think we just promptly left because I think we thought we would fit in. We did not. We were very young and we didn't belong there. So we just exited out the regular door through the party. But I guess I technically crashed a party once.
Whoa, that's quite a thing to do. Yeah, I would not have been the ringleader ever. And I would have wanted to go along with it, but I don't know if I would have faked something real quick, I don't know, just
Melissa just drops and she faints.
Slays on the ground. You guys go ahead of me. Do it for me. I'll be here a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm really kind of amazed that I went through with it, but I don't think either of us would have the you-know-whats to pull off what Tareq and Michaele did. I mean, we couldn't even keep up with the bling ring. I mean, definitely not keep up with the bling ring. We've established this. We are not the people to do this. So I know everybody knows that this happened, but I'm hoping today's story will fill in some gaps and help us understand kind of the why and how of it all. So we've come to know Tareq and Michaele as these gate crashers, but the stunt that they pulled happened while they were just filming as hopefuls for Bravo's one season of The Real Housewives of DC. Michaele was not yet confirmed. She was being followed by the crew to get footage as part of the audition process. So they were not sure she would be a housewife.
Oh.
Now, they haven't admitted this, but I feel like after that whole thing, they needed her to be on the cast because it was the entire storyline, almost the entire storyline.
Right.
So let's take a minute and talk about the Real Housewives of DC. One season, 2010. Did you watch it, and what were your thoughts?
I did watch it. So we're still in the early aughts of Real Housewives then. Editing has come so far.
Oh my gosh.
The people that are on there have come so far. It's about the drama, the fun, wacky drama. It was very boring. Very, not a lot going on. You thought it would be exciting because it was in Washington, D.C., but the people that were on it were just, Michaele was the most exciting one, and she was the only one anyone actually watched for. I
agree. If she hadn't been on, and if what happened hadn't have happened, I don't even know if they would have gotten past the pilot. It was just, it was not great. I also just want to say that I've never seen such poorly delivered taglines. I sent you something. Could you just take a second to play those, and we will play it as well for our listeners?
I would love to. Were they all lit when they recorded this? Because they're all just...
They're mumbling. I feel like, did nobody coach them on how to give your tagline? With the exception of Stacey, I can barely understand any of them.
Yeah.
And they're also just not well written or good, but then their delivery sucks. So that just set the tone for the season. So, okay, so we're not fans of the season.
Right.
I will say I did enjoy Stacey. I think she anchored the show. But yeah, I guess there was just nowhere for that season two. There was nowhere for a season 2 to go. Mm-mm. So we meet Michaele and Tareq, and they're this kind of wannabe socialite power couple.
Do they give you Alex and Simon vibes a little bit?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Right?
Who they know, what events they're going to, which designers and stylists, they want to know, except it's DC version, so it's which generals and chairmen of the board and all of that. It's so interesting to me because I always think New York City, people are after wealth. LA, everyone's after fame. And in DC, it's power. And that showed to me the cool thing about it. I think it really did epitomize that. They all were about who works the closest to the highest level officials. Their homes were fairly modest, but Kat's husband was the photographer for the president. Very prestigious, but kind of also really a normal existence. So that part of it I did find interesting. But Michaele and Tareq were just hobnobbing all the time, and just they seemed desperate to be part of the scene in DC. So who were the Salahis? Tareq is born and raised in Virginia. He's the son of 2 immigrants. His dad was from Israel and his mom, Belgium. His dad was an oil geologist in the Middle East, and he actually didn't come to Virginia until the 1970s. And that's I know, he was retired when he got here. Now, his wife was 20 years younger than him, Tareq's mom. And so she opened up a Montessori school in Alexandria, Virginia. And Tareq's father opened up this winery called Oasis. And his vision was, this will be my retirement work. And someday it'll be Tareq's. It'll be this family business, and it'll be my legacy, and it'll be my son's. And so he opened that in 1977. As I said, it's called Oasis. It was only the state's 5th winery, which actually isn't surprising because I didn't even think Virginia could have wines because it's so warm and in the South.
Yeah.
But New Jersey has vineyards, so I guess, things are possible. And it did fairly well. Tareq grew up playing polo and was a competitive player on the U.S. team in his high school years. And he really did take to the family business, and I will give him credit for this and possibly just this. He studied oenology, Oenology, which is wine studying, at UC Davis, and became a certified vintner, which is a word. I've heard of sommeliers. I've not yet ever said vintner. Sorry, I keep saying it so slowly, but
no. I really am enjoying it.
It's the NTN that's really hard. So he caught on to the vision. He did want to be part of the family business, and he had the business background. He had the chops, the wine chops, if you will. I don't know.
I like that, though.
So the vineyard did well. Some years it profited $1 million, And it was the recipient of many awards, including their 1999 champagne, which was included on the top 10 best champagne and sparkling wines list by Wine Enthusiast magazine. Through his work on the vineyard, Tareq became part of the Virginia Board of Tourism. He sat on other boards and established a polo club at the winery so he could host polo events and get back into the sport he loved. And that will be important later. So I wouldn't say they were Washington, D.C. elites, but they were a successful, prominent D.C. area family. I think he went to private schools. Again, polo isn't the kind of sport you can just... You need more than just like a soccer ball. Like it's like kind of a big deal, like access to horses. So his parents were up there in age though. And his mom, even though she was younger, was getting sick and was letting Tareq take more control of the business. And this would end up having disastrous consequences for Oasis. Tareq decided that what the business needed was another arm to the business that he would call Oasis Enterprises, which was just an expansion of the winery and included wine tours and large-scale events and catering. And I really sound like I'm a Tareq fan or stan, but I think this is a decent idea. I mean, it seems like a natural way to scale a winery. Like, let's have events here. Let's do tours. Like, that seems like, why not bring in revenue when you're not just making money on wine? The problem was he stopped paying all the bills for the winery and used the money to get Oasis Enterprises off the ground. And so the debts were accumulating, vendors were after them, and actually the whole estate kind of deteriorated. I get the sense he didn't keep it well and he didn't pay people to keep it well. So the whole place is basically falling apart. So his mother, Corinne, she's quoted in a Washington Post article. I mean, this was actually big news in the D.C. area. She said to the Washington Post, "I was hoping he would learn the ropes and gradually take over, not create more work for me and his father." Which is just sad because she's now stressing about what's going to happen. So they decide that they need to sell the winery because they need to do this before he drives it completely into the ground and they don't even have it as an asset to sell. She's also gotten heart issues, which she says are a direct cause of the stress caused by Tareq and the business. So they try to sell it and they come close, but the deals keep falling through. The parents blame Tareq's accumulation of debt as the reason the sales keep coming through. I mean, buyers look into the financials and they're like, this is not good. One prospective buyer, this is really random, was Shaquille O'Neal.
Sure. Why not?
Because why wouldn't, I mean, a Virginia vineyard, it just fits.
Yeah.
He and his partners backed out when they found out that they couldn't obtain the Oasis trademark. Then another serious prospect was actually Tareq's best friend, Andrew, who said, "Why don't I buy it, lease it back to you, and we'll get this up and running again." He looked into it, and he's quoted in that same article, and he said, "When I looked at the disarray of the property and vines, looked at the finances, I said, Tareq, you can't make this work. You couldn't pay the rent, you'd be defaulting to me, and then we wouldn't be friends."
Ooh.
I actually respect Andrew.
Yeah.
He's also the guy who introduced Tareq to Michaele at a baby shower in the year 2000, which we will get to. But before we get to that, his mom filed a lawsuit against him. And that's just always sad when a family member, we've seen it happen before, but, a lawsuit against him. And they alleged that their son interfered with the winery's sale and falsely advertised on the internet, that was the verbiage, that Oasis was closed. I guess he was saying it's closed, but Oasis Enterprise is open, and people were getting these confusing messages, and it was impeding the sale. They also threatened to evict Tareq and his wife, Michaele, who were staying in an apartment on the property. So they were together during this. And that comes up on the show, how Michaele's like sticking by him through this very difficult, challenging familial relationship. So let's talk about her for a second. We don't know as much about her backstory as we do Tareq, but we do know she's also a Virginia native. She attended college in Pennsylvania, didn't finish, but moved back to the D.C. area in 1989. Now, this is unverifiable. I'm sure you love when I say that. You probably get very nervous, but I just feel like maybe Michaele's name is Michelle. She seems like the kind of person who would decide it's Michaele when she like moves to a new city.
You mean very like Baldwin-esque? What's her name?
The daughter or the wife?
The wife.
Yes. Hilaria.
Hilaria, yeah.
Hilaria.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would totally agree with you because it's a little
Right?
pizzazz in
It's
her
a
name.
little pizzazz because she was born in 1965. Her siblings are Debbie and Glenn.
No,
You think
that's
Rosemary
Michelle.
and Howard had a kid and we're like, we'll name her Michaele. They'll be Debbie and Glenn. No, it's Michelle, right? Okay. I think we can
100%.
all agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I grew up being called Becca, and when I moved to college, I did start using my formal name of Rebekah. So I kind of understand the idea, but that is my given name. So
Right.
we all right?
Wait, for you or for her? Yeah, absolutely. I
not for
can't see you
Michaele.
as a Becca. I definitely can't
Becca
see you as a
for-
Becky.
Oh, I was never a Becky, and love you, Beckies. Any that are listening,
But
great
you do
hair.
have the good
but-
hair. Yeah.
Okay, so Michaele comes to DC in 1989, where she works at the front desk of a radio station, and then she works retail selling makeup at Nordstrom for much of the 90s, which the women on The Real Housewives of DC will never let you or
Never.
anyone forget. Michaele said she was a makeup artist. The women say she sold it at the counter. This will just be one of several discrepancies and convoluted, messy
Right.
non-truths around Michaele and Tareq. Michaele also claimed to be a model and former Redskins cheerleader. But according to the American Football Database and several other sources, nobody can or will corroborate this. Just a note about the Washington football team, it seems their name is going to be changed to move away from the Redskins and that it's sort of a TBD situation. All the reports and sources I used for this episode did call it their former name of the Redskins. She has
Really?
asked no one. She's not on any list anywhere. People have gone to coaches, the cheer coach, the alumni directors. Her name doesn't exist, not her maiden name, nowhere. Now, Andy asks her directly about this on the reunion, and we get into like a 5-minute story about how she was invited to be on the alumni team, but she was never a Redskin cheerleader.
Right.
So she answered differently to the same question, are you or were you a cheerleader? At one point she says, yes, because I'm part of the Alumni Association. And then she said, well, no, I was never a cheerleader, but I'm part of the alumni. So for the last 9 years, I've been told to say I was.
Somebody's out there telling her, so help me, Michaele, if you do one more interview and don't mention your background.
A forcible cheerleading crime.
Don't you hate when people force you to say
It's
you
so
were a
hard because
cheerleader?
I have the body of a cheerleader. So everyone's always like, Rebekah, just tell them you're a cheerleader. You
They look at
so
me and they're
peppy.
like, you're a base. You're a total base.
Yeah, no, I was never a cheerleader, nor has anyone ever mistaken me for a cheerleader.
No. It's never come up for me either.
I'm like, yeah, not happening. So just that's like innocuous. It's not that big a deal, but it is like, why are you lying about this?
Right.
And it comes up on the show because there's a scene with her attending a Washington Redskins alumni event where she's holding pom-poms with the women and hugging them like they're long-lost best friends. And I swear to you, they look so confused. And now we know it's because she was not their cheer.
But nobody's going to
colleague.
say anything. You would never, if you were in that situation and somebody hugged you, you would just go along with it, right? Because there's
would just go along
you're
with it.
remembering it wrong. There's no way somebody would do this.
And there's a camera crew filming
Oh,
it.
100%.
So you're just
I'd
like,
hug everybody.
hey, girl. Like, so I will say this was the moment that made the $24.99 I coughed up to watch this whole season completely worth it. I might have to post this scene on Instagram.
Yes.
And also, she doesn't know any of the routines. And this wasn't just like I'm in my 40s, I'm a little rusty kind of thing. It was like she did not have rhythm. She went up when they went down. Like, it was...
I want to see that. I missed that. I don't remember that.
It was great. Okay, so that happens. And you're, again, not a big deal. But perhaps, I mean, if she's brazen enough to just join a football team at this. It was a big event.
Right.
I mean, maybe she was just practicing for crashing the White House. So let's talk about how they met. They met at this baby shower that I mentioned through this mutual friend, Andrew, and they fell in love very quickly. They were married in 2003. The original date for the wedding was 2002. It was postponed several times, much to the chagrin of their guests. They had 1,836 guests. So I have a feeling that it was like schedule conflicts that they kept postponing it because there were guests like Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, former U.S. Ambassador to Ireland, Margaret Heckler, other important D.C. people I've never heard of.
Sure.
And just 1,800 people. They also released doves when they walked out, which I know people do, and it's a thing. It's just like a lot.
Honestly, though, if I'm at a wedding with 1,835 people and you don't throw doves out, what's the point of this entire thing?
No. 1,800 people. We deserve a spectacle. I want to see a unicorn or like...
I want to see a nip slip. I want to see it all.
A white tiger, something. Doves? You can get those at the zoo.
Come on.
So when we meet the Salahis on the show, the Oasis Winery is in dire straits. Will they sell it? Will they go bankrupt? They're trying to present it that it's on the up and up, and they're even trying to film scenes there that are just horrible. And even then, I know it was early days for Bravo, but even then the shade was real because they just show close-ups of like rotting leaves and it's dry and crunchy and like you would not want to drink a wine that came from this vineyard. Tareq's father has passed away at this point, and his relationship with his mom is beyond tense. They're actually in a very like kind of semi-estranged place. They only speak through lawyers and lawsuits, and she calls police and security on them in the middle of filming while they're on the property because she doesn't believe they have the right to be there. It is a big mess. But the whole arc of the show is just a lead up to this couple crashing the White House, and I mean, it is quite a storyline. So I remember having this moment while I was researching this, and it reminded me of when I was doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire UK, and I was like, oh my gosh, did they maybe not do it? Was this maybe a case of we all got it wrong and the media being so powerful in pushing a narrative?
Right.
And so I had this like really short moment where I was like, oh my gosh, what if they didn't? What if I uncover for the first time ever, you know, that they actually were on a list or they were invited? And that was very short-lived. So I'm going to get into the mechanics of how that event happened because I think the why is very much already answered. These were people who were desperate to be seen at these kinds of events. And even among the cast, I think they wanted to be the ones that got invited to that. This is not an easy event to get invited to. We'll learn more about what this state dinner is. So I read that email at the beginning of the episode to you, Melissa, and it proves that there was correspondence with the office of the social secretary. And so I was trying to figure out how they took these communications because I read the whole paper trail, and I'll put it in the show notes. ABC News has like the PDF attachment of them, which was so helpful. But they fabricated it into this driving narrative on the show, which was that they were invited, they had personal and professional connections to President Obama, and that they had a physical invitation, an email invitation, and they were absolutely on the list. They repeatedly claimed this was all true. So let's first tackle the question of whether or not they knew President Obama. It is verified that the couple attended a 2008 Rock the Vote event in D.C. and posed for a photo with then Senator Obama and the Black Eyed Peas. Saw the photo, verifiable. To turn this into we know Obama and do business with him is just, it's laughable. It's actually sad. It's, you know.
Well, anytime anyone posts a photo with somebody like, oh, this person knew this person, it's like, well, they probably take a million photos with people. There's no way you will know all the people you've taken a photo with. So I don't ever give much credence to those kind of connections in anything whenever it's this person and this person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they've technically been at the same event as him is just literally all that proves. So first red flag. The next red flag for me is in addition to this whole Redskins cheerleader stunt, which we already discussed, is the fact that just 2 months prior to crashing the White House state dinner, they crashed the Black Caucus dinner, which didn't get nearly as much press, but we see it happen on the show. So at this event, they said they had tickets from their lawyer, Paul Gardner, who is the managing partner for Gardner Law Firm. Also, he has since been disbarred. I looked him up. He had overbilled clients, misused money that was used as a retainer. So big no-nos. They were denied entry to the party. And when their names didn't appear on the guest list, they were like, oh, well, no problem. And they just found a side entrance where the service staff were going in and out, and they waltzed right in. They also had Michaele's hairstylist, Ted Gibson. He's a featured player on the season. He was actually like a very well-known stylist, Ted Gibson. I think he even has like hair products.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. And he tells this whole insane story on one of the episodes of the show. But just imagine, I couldn't believe the audacity of this, especially because it's kind of a sacred event. It's this subset of Congress members who are Black to protect and preserve the rights of Black Americans.
Right.
And this couple
and this is the one.
Waltzes in like they belong there. I'm floored. I can't believe, honestly, that didn't make more waves than it did. But again, I don't think it was at the White House. So, anyway, the audacity. The audacity. So now we know a little more about them, and we know what they're capable of and how they're perceived. And to me, the pattern I'm seeing is they don't take no for an answer. They just don't seem like the kind of people who can hear that word.
Yeah, they don't even understand the word.
They don't even understand it, and it's like they just keep bulldozing with their agenda until they get what they want. So we're back to the night of November 24th, 2009. You remember the email, and as I said, that last one came in from Ms. Michelle Jones, Special Assistant to the Secretary of Defense, White House Liaison. But there were other emails. There were a ton of them, and essentially all of them, this poor woman, Michelle, is politely saying, essentially, I'll do everything I can, no promises, it's not looking good.
Right.
And Tareq just keeps responding as if he didn't read what was in the email. His emails say things like, we're so excited. Where should we be and when? It will be our honor to attend. It's so embarrassing. And what's not clear is how the correspondence started, because the trail of emails that I found they begin Friday, November 20th. So somehow they got into the radar of going. I don't know if that happened on the phone or through a connection. Right. I have no idea. So that where this all began, I don't know. But the email trail starts that Friday before.
I would have thought this started months before. Don't ask me why, because it's political, and it was a different president before that. So, I mean, that doesn't even really make sense. But for it to all be
No, I think
moving.
You're absolutely right. I think this was like a desperate last-minute ploy to get in. And he was probably calling in favors, because the other thing he does, I'm going to mention this later, but I'm going to tell you now, he goes so far as to email her a list of 4 couples, their first and last names, that he knows for a fact can't attend, which frees up 8 seats. It's so tacky and desperate, because it's like, he's like, away for Thanksgiving, wife is sick. He lists out all these things. He also makes mention that he's hosting the India versus USA Polo Championship the following summer, implying, I think, that this should qualify him to attend, because the state dinner, as you know, or maybe you don't know, I refreshed my memory that it's always held in honor of a world leader or dignitary. And this year's guest of honor was India's Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. So he felt he should be there because his polo work is doing amazing things for India-USA relations.
Polio
I don't know.
Or polo?
Polo.
Okay.
Did I say polio?
No, you said polo, but he's acting like it was polio.
Exactly. Yeah. Talk about self-importance and inflation of ego. So for whatever reason, they're connected enough to be emailing, and I don't really know why she was so nice and not more firm. I want to be like, Michelle, tell him no. But she was so kind. So here comes the day of the event. Michaele is having her hair and makeup done, and she's telling everyone where they're going. Well, first she says it's confidential. It's very important. It's confidential. And she has this way of speaking that I have to say is very, I don't want to say compelling, but it does kind of grab you. She has a voice that you listen to. She speaks authoritatively. There is something elegant about her, and she looks kind of like a Barbie doll, but she sounds more polished than that. So she's kind of captivating. I'm not gonna take that away from Michaele. So she's talking about, she's saying confidential. Okay, fine. It's the White House state dinner. And in DC, that's such a big deal. It's like going to the Tonys in New York or something. I don't know. Bad example. maybe it's not a bad example.
What about Watch What Happens Live?
Yes, the coveted inner circle. So you don't know what emails I sent to get that.
I saw one of them that you sent.
I was like, I know for a fact. No. So this hairstylist is like, oh my gosh, I would love to see the invitation. Could I see the invitation? And Michaele's like, sure. I'll get it in the car when we're done. And lo and behold, it's not in the car. Tareq and Michaele fret about this briefly, but they're like, well, we have the emails to back it up and we're on the list. So I don't think you actually have to bring an invitation to the party, which I would imagine actually is true. I don't think it's probably very like nice card stock, really big. But she gets out of showing it to this woman, gets in her car, and off they go. She also brags that she called the social secretary to confirm that it would be okay for her to wear a sari, a traditional Indian sari, which is beautiful. It's red and gold with her blonde hair. She looked stunning. Tareq is wearing a tux. That's all I can muster up on that one. Yeah. And on the limo ride to the state dinner, Tareq asks what she's most looking forward to. And Michaele says to see what everyone's wearing. And then, quote, knowing President Obama and Michelle, they'll have a great diverse crowd. I mean,
sorry for anyone listening. That was an eye roll. I don't think that was audible, but it felt like it was flittering in the back of my head for a while.
I feel like I felt it over here. Yeah, knowing like, oh, you know Barack.
Yeah.
And Michelle. I mean, she's no Michaele, but pretty cool chick. Like, I can't with this woman at this point. And I have to say, I started this, and I think I texted you when I was watching the show back. I'm like, I don't think she's dreadful. I think she really desperately wanted to fit in with those women. I think she has like a lot of purity in her. Tareq, I don't. No. Tareq, I think, is like a greedy, not nice guy. Michaele, I think, is well-intentioned and got caught up. I really do think that.
Yeah.
But this little moment, I was like, oh,
the whole limo ride just like was upsetting to me. It was and they were just so all over each other, and it was just a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. But actually, if you watch it closely and just watch him, he gets increasingly red. He's sweaty. I think he was nervous because they were fully not invited. Like, spoiler alert, everybody. I uncovered the truth. They were not invited. So he's like, I don't know what's about to happen.
Right. Yeah,
and I don't know if she knew that. So she might have just been like, here we come.
Yeah.
And he might have been like, I really hope we can. I'm going to have some explaining to do. So they're in the car and they pull up. There's two ways to enter. There's an automobile entrance.
Wait,
It's the White House. So I said automobile. And there's a pedestrian entrance. So they go to the gate and they're told that the car is not approved to go through. We don't really hear why. I assume these vehicles have to be pre-registered, like license plate, everything. So this first level of security actually works. They are turned away. No problem. They just hop out of the car and walk over to the pedestrian entrance and get in line. Like, that's always what was supposed to happen. This is the part of the night where I think you and I would be like, you know what? Let's go find an Applebee's. Yeah. Get some Diet Coke.
Get some
Maybe
apps
they'll play
and
Bravo
zerts,
for us.
And yes. Enjoy the night.
So they glide into the pedestrian line and approach the first checkpoint where a woman with a clipboard says she doesn't see them on the list, asks for their names one more time. There's a little confusion. And now this is being filmed, but the Bravo crew obviously is not on the list. They can't get too close. So we don't know exactly what's happening. It's close, but not like right there. Right. The woman says, you know what? Go ahead. It hasn't even started yet. You're not missing anything. Go ahead and we'll figure it out. So this really is the moment the big mistake was made. Right. I mean, this woman just should never have done that, but they looked the part. And I think that's the part of the story that is the most frustrating because that should just not matter. He was in a tux, she was in a sari, obviously.
Yeah, they put a lot of work into that, but they're just like kind of very fine with it. Like, she's like, oh, they sometimes spell my name like Michael. It happens. Like, very just friendly conversation and stuff like that, where you're like, if I was that lady, I would have a hard time turning them away. I could never have that position because I used to work in Publix and I worked at the check cashing thing. We had that briefly, and people would bring in their checks and you were supposed to do this whole rigmarole if it didn't look legit. And I would just let them go because I didn't want confrontation. Why would I be allowed to do that? That's a terrible job for me.
Well, also, in your circumstance, like you're just kind-hearted. It's like if someone's like can't afford their milk or their groceries or their diapers, I'm kind of the person that's just like, I'm not gonna alert anyone to
I was
that.
16, just
Yeah, like that's a little too much
too much.
responsibility. And I agree. I could never have had that job either. And I might have done the same thing, but this is the White House. Pretty sure her job would be to like verify.
Right. I would have never applied for this job for this very reason. Know thyself.
100%. Like places Rebekah should not work. White House, top of the list. Like would love to visit someday. Do not want to work there or don't think I can work there. So they move to the next place. They move to the next checkpoint. And the rest of what happens is the source of heated debate and the center of a media frenzy, because here's what we know. They make it inside. While they were never on a list, their names get added to the list that's called out at the reception. So someone realizes they're there and probably thinks they made the mistake to not have them on the list. So it's like this arrival ceremony, and all 400 guests are called out by name, and it's like a procession. Like they walk. So remember the footage of them walking and they're literally waving? I mean, she looks like she's on the runway.
Yeah.
They got called Mr. and Mrs. Tareq Salahi. So this, I think, is what emboldened them to dig their heels into the story of like, we were supposed to be there. They called our names. So they've crashed this party, yet they're officially named. They got to shake hands with the president and first lady. They take numerous photos with the chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, Vice President Joe Biden. Those pictures are a lot.
Oh, the pictures are so funny. And then the fact that they bring in their camera, which it's 2009. It's just
the little digital camera.
Worst digital camera you've ever seen in your life. It's so rough. All the pictures in Michaele's like this on Joe Biden. Everybody. She has a habit of doing that on their chest.
And she has a habit of doing that on the show. She greets everyone with a big hug. I love you.
Yeah.
It's very
calls everyone love. Yeah.
It's everyone's love.
Too much for me.
It's a lot. And there's other celebrities. They take picture with Katie Couric, among others. They don't get seated for dinner because there's no seats for them for dinner. Like, this is not your grandma's house. There's no like, let's just pull out a card table and you don't mind if there's no place card for you, do you? The more the merrier. No, they leave, I think, on their own before the meal started, because I think they knew that would be like the gig was up at that point. Mm. Now, it's hard to say when and if people would have come to realize that White House security had just been severely breached, but we know for certain that Michaele's own Facebook post could not have helped. The digital camera you mentioned, she went home late that night, posted every single photo.
Hooked it up to her computer, waited for dial-up internet. It was a whole thing.
Yeah, that was not, these are not the days of Instagram and Facebook when it's working. And she writes, honored to have attended the state dinner at the White House in honor of India with President Obama and our First Lady. India and the USA will challenge each other for the first time on the D.C. National Mall in June 2010 in what will be another proud and historic moment. XO, Michaele. I love that she's putting the state dinner and their future polo match on the same level. Like, that'll be the next historic event. Nothing
Obviously.
In between.
No.
I'm like getting angry at this point. I am just like, I can't.
It's wild. It's so wild. But all of this was because of the confidence and whatever ego narcissism or something. I think they even said that in the show. It's all because of that, because there's no reason anyone else would go through all of this and would very quickly bail or never come up with this idea. No one thinks somebody would do this. So it's much easier to think you've got it wrong than people would go through this, right? It's wild.
It is hard to get the head around. So the White House releases these same photos, the professional versions, on November 27th, 2009, on the same day the Secret Service issues a statement. So if there's any discrepancy over whether or not this happened or was a big deal and like, was this just a media thing? No.
Right.
The Secret Service says, we are deeply concerned and embarrassed by the circumstances surrounding the state dinner, end quote. So this was the director, his last name is Sullivan, I'm sorry, I forget his first name. His statement also pointed out that, quote, the preliminary findings of our internal investigation have determined established protocols were not followed at an initial checkpoint, verifying 2 individuals were on the guest list. Kind of confusing language, but he means they accidentally verified that they were on there. Like they weren't on there. It's just kind of weirdly stated. The Washington Post also quoted an anonymous official as having said that, quote, the Salahis were allowed inside in violation of agency policies by an officer outside the front gate who apparently was persuaded by the couple's manner and insistence, as well as the pressure of keeping lines moving on a rainy evening. Kind of to what you and I were talking about, like, well, like they don't look like they're going to do anything crazy, no red flags, and yeah, we got to keep it moving. It did not take long for this to become a very, very serious conversation in Washington and around the world because this did not make us look good. So it didn't take long for this to become a very serious conversation about national security. On December 1st, 2009, exactly 1 week after the state dinner and the Monday after Thanksgiving, so you know a lot of people were working on the holiday, a formal investigation began, starting with the Secret Service, who interviewed the couple over the weekend and later met with prosecutors to decide if they should be charged. Among the charges that may be considered are trespassing and lying to a federal officer. Representative Peter King, who sits on the Homeland Security Committee, said, quote, the fact that they went through the magnetometer is incidental. They could have had anthrax on them. They could have grabbed a knife from the dining room table. I mean, that's really, I think, what this is about. If you think about it, they were so close to the world's biggest leaders. And there's more than one way to wreak havoc and, you know, be a terrorist, right? We sadly all know that. So going through security and making sure they don't have a gun is one thing, but there's plenty of other things they could have done. So the couple goes on the Today Show with Matt Lauer, claiming victimization and that their lives, personal and professional, have been destroyed. They were scheduled to be on Larry King to continue this non-apology tour, but they canceled at the last minute and opened themselves up to media interviews asking for high six figures for a full tell-all.
Ooh.
Could it get grosser? Nobody came through with an offer. They stopped speaking publicly. Publicist shows up, of course. Her name is Mahogany Jones. And she said they would not comment formally, but issued a statement through their lawyer, Paul Gardner, non-practicing now. And he said emphatically that the Salahis did not crash this event. We look forward to setting the record straight very soon. But they would never set the record straight. In January of 2010, they were subpoenaed to appear, and they were subpoenaed because they were twice requested to appear, and they refused. Ooh. So they were, they were subpoenaed before the Committee on Homeland Security. So if you remember the news footage of them sitting before the people, almost looks like Senate or a grand jury or court. That's the Committee on Homeland Security. And they were interrogated. Tareq and Michaele repeatedly invoked their right to remain silent on advice of counsel. Over and over and over again, they pleaded the fifth. So it's DC and it's political, so naturally there is infighting. And what I have from all the reading I've done, I think what happened was nobody could agree on who to blame. Republicans wanted to blame Obama's administration and their failure within the office. The Democrats wanted to blame the Homeland Security protocol. And I think ultimately both parties, and again, I'm not a political advisor or interpreter of such events, but I think they felt like this is our fault. It's actually not theirs. Like they shouldn't have done it, but we allowed it. Like, and I have a feeling a prosecutor wasn't sure they could win because I think if they could have, they would have. So I think with the right lawyer, you could probably argue that they don't have criminal responsibility. So the first woman with the clipboard fired. Secret Service Director Sullivan put 3 employees on administrative leave. The social secretary, because of so much, she wasn't fired, but there was so much pressure on her, she resigned. And I think the Obamas loved her. And that was just an unfortunate and unnecessary thing that happened as a result. And meanwhile, everywhere they go, they're still claiming their innocence and trying to profit off this. So frustrating. President Obama himself termed the gate crash a screw-up, expressed anger that it had taken place, and vowed that such incidents would never occur again. Also, this was historic because it was his first state dinner of his administration, right? He was inaugurated, he won in 2008, inaugurated January. This was the first state dinner of his administration. And he has all the regular security around him, but being the first Black president, there was even heightened security around him when he was running for president. So all of this swelled up, I think, in the story, making it even more dramatic than it already was.
Yeah.
There was a lot of criticism of the White House for a lack of transparency due to the administration's unwillingness to allow the social secretary to testify before Congress. That was one of the factors around her resigning. I think people really disagreed with that stance, but I think they wanted to protect her. So they were like, we're not going to make her do that. They really wanted her to, so she didn't really have to answer to the committee.
Watching Michaele and Tareq with that committee felt more like Veep than anything I've ever witnessed in my life. They did, when they do like their testimony episode, it's exactly like that. It was unreal, like how much they nailed it, and just watching them, it was bizarre.
Well, the committee members are realizing they're not going to get answers, so they start being a little sassy. I mean, let's be honest. Like their questions were all valid, but their tone and their can you answer if you're here? Were you there? Do you need to ask your lawyer? I mean, they were getting so hot and bothered, understandably. So as far as results for the Salahis, Tareq did resign from the Virginia Tourism Board at the request of the governor. Multiple sponsors withdrew support from their Polo Cup event, and they lost a lot of sponsors for that big, important polo event that was coming the following summer.
The most important, some would say,
Historic,
after the state dinner.
After the state dinner, yeah. I mean, this was huge in terms of peace relations. So the fact that this was really serious doesn't mean that SNL didn't want to touch it. In keeping with SNL content from your episode last time, they did not miss a beat and featured the story December 5th, 2009 in the premiere sketch, which featured Kristen Wiig, playing Michaele, and Bobby Moynihan as Tareq, which is
oh my gosh,
perfect. And of course, you have Fred Armisen playing Obama. And what's crazy is in the same episode, there's a sketch with Tiger Woods and Elin Nordegren, and Rachel Yucatel makes like a mention. So it's like all my episodes coming together in one SNL episode.
I love it.
Blake Lively was the host, and she's playing Elin in that sketch. But this was a good episode. Rihanna was a musical guest. This was when I was really kind of watching it semi-regularly. It was pretty good. Mm-hmm. So if people haven't fully forgotten the Salahis, they've at least moved on, chosen to not talk about them until September 2011. The story goes from party crasher to gone girl. Michaele tells Tareq, this is according to Tareq, that she was going to get her hair done. A running theme.
Yeah.
And when she doesn't return home for several hours, Tareq gets concerned, calls the hair salon. They said she's never been there. Calls her mom. She doesn't know where she is. So, as is natural, when you call the police when a loved one is missing, and then you call, who would you call after the police if a loved one went missing?
Probably Ghostbusters.
That's what I would do too, but Tareq called TMZ.
Oh, no.
And he said, Michaele is missing. Now, the story was met with a lot of eye rolling and laughter. Nobody trusted him, but of course law enforcement has to look at it. And the FBI even got involved because if it was a kidnapping, that's who does that.
I would like to point out that I'm only laughing because I know how it ends, not because she...
Everyone can laugh. Yeah, okay, don't hold your breath. Michaele's fine. I'm going to tell you where she was.
I was expecting TMZ.
TMZ.
Oh my god.
He tweeted it. Please retweet.
I do remember
this
that.
Is not a joke.
Yeah.
It's since deleted. But I mean, it's just I don't even have the word.
I have chills. That's so good.
So funny. So less than 24 hours later, law enforcement issues a statement. The sheriff's official from Warren County, Virginia said, Michaele Salahi told the department that she left with a friend, she's where she wants to be, and does not want her husband to know. Okay. So Tareq doubles down, saying she could be being held in distress and forced to say she's okay. Don't worry, because later that evening, a definitive conclusion to Michaele's whereabouts come in the form of a statement from Scoop Marketing, who represent the band Journey. Now, why in the world would Journey's PR company be issuing a statement? Here's why. Quote, we can confirm that nobody kidnapped Michaele. She and Neil Schon are together in Memphis, Tennessee for Journey's concert tonight in the Bridgestone Arena. Now, for anyone who doesn't know Neil Schon, is it Schon? I think so. Schon? It's S-H... I don't even know how you spell it.
Say it with confidence.
Neil Schon is the guitarist of the band Journey. I'm sure everybody knows Journey. He's the guitarist. I don't know when we're going to sing Don't Start Believin'. stop believing, but I know we will.
Don't start believing
Don't start
either.
believing anything Tareq says.
There you go. Now, if that's
Title?
not the name of the title, yeah, that's it.
If this seems out of left field, it is and it isn't. The band had actually known the couple for years, and Neil and Michaele had even flirted over the years, with Neil saying things like, "When are you going to leave your husband for me?"
That's not flirting.
Like a
I know that is the most like saying the quiet things out loud thing I've ever heard. If somebody said that, I wouldn't be like, they're flirting with me. No, they're like asking a question. They want to
propositioning.
Answer.
Yeah. So I learned in my research a lot about this part of the story from a great podcast from our mutual friend, Javier Leiva, the Pretend podcast, which is all about scammers and con artists. Brilliant podcast. And he does one on Tareq. The episode is called The Party Crasher. So not only were they friends and friendly with Neil, he was actually a groomsman in Tareq and Michaele's wedding. So this is brutal.
It's brutal, but there were 1,836 people there. That was like the whole eastern side of DC. I mean, it's still a lot. I get it.
So it seems Michaele was just making a clean break and starting a new journey, if you will, without Tareq. Some say this whole kidnapping story was just a publicity stunt, but Tareq denies it to this day. However, a Washingtonian article written by Luke Mullins, and all of these articles will be sourced in the show notes. This one in particular, I really think people should read it. It's an amazing article. It's so funny. Reported that there was just one big problem with this kidnapping story. When their inevitable divorce happened, he found out that, quote, according to court filings, Tareq already had two pieces of information making Michaele's departure a whole lot less mysterious. A few hours before calling the police, Tareq received an email from the private account of Journey guitarist Neil Schon, of Don't Stop Believin' fame. The message was empty but for a single attachment, a photograph of the rocker's private male parts.
Why is that the thing you send?
Hold on. But wait, there's more. Tareq had also received a brief phone call that made the message even clearer. Quote, "This is Neil. I am effing your wife."
Please see the attachment.
This we see attached for reasons there within. This is the kind of liar we're dealing with, who knows that occurred and still calls TMZ and says his wife is kidnapped?
Why wouldn't you call TMZ and say, I have a photo for you?
Idiot. Melissa, you're a genius.
I should be Tareq's publicist.
He could have actually made some money and, soothed his bruised ego.
Anyone that sends a dong photo that easy breezy to him
doesn't mind it being
dong
seen.
Photo everywhere. Yeah. The dong
probably
around the world.
He was probably hoping it was seen.
That's probably what took Instagram down today.
Oh, gosh. Glad it happened before I saw it. A divorce with Tareq and Michaele wouldn't be complete without a lawsuit. He filed a $50 million lawsuit against Michaele, saying that, quote, his marriage was also a husband-wife business partnership. His wife's decision to leave their home at 4410 Scenic Drive in September and join Schon and Journey on a concert tour ruined several TV projects they were pursuing together, he said. This lawsuit was just settled in 2018 after 6 years of battles with countersuits back and forth. It has been settled for an undisclosed amount. I read that Tareq is thrilled with the outcome, so he clearly was paid off to sit down and shut up and leave them alone. Neil and Michaele went on to get engaged, and they made their wedding available to watch on pay-per-view. That was one of my clues. For just $14.95, you could have watched Michaele and Neil tie the knot. No doves. Apparently, they donated proceeds to charity. I couldn't verify it, but I think that was part of the reason. Still think they're overestimating people's interest in their wedding.
Yeah.
But where are they now, I think is what everyone's probably wondering, right? So Tareq rents out his Virginia home as a sort of Real Housewives girls' weekend-themed rental place. He used to do it via Airbnb, and it was like kind of bumping. Like girls were going
I would
there.
do it.
Of course we would. It would be your birthday, and we would be like, let's go to Michaele and Tareq's and take pictures. So it was going really well for him, but he never got a permit from the county to do Airbnb. So now he does it on these smaller home rental platforms. It's still up there on TripAdvisor and VRBO, etc. He also created a Housewives branded line of wine called Real House Winos. He's hoping to move into craft beer, one of which might be called the Gold Digging Blonde Ale.
Ooh.
Which I can't believe his settlement, would allow for such disparaging words, but maybe it's just vague enough. He ran unsuccessfully for governor in 2013, Congress in 2014. I mean, can we say balls on this podcast? The balls on this man, the stones, wow, I've never heard anything like it. In 2017, he planned to launch a new business, really innovative, a Real Housewives themed cruise line, but it never came to fruition. I almost wish it did, just so he could have had to, never mind.
Shut it down?
Thinking of 2020, yeah. But it did give him an idea for his actual next venture. He met an investor, Lisa Spoden, and they decided that what if Airbnbs were on the water? And they formed Hotels at Sea, a 50-50 venture, but then they became partners romantically. The couple had an engagement party, and at their home, they served Real House Winos wine, and they asked guests to rate the wine and give feedback on little cards that the servers brought around. Mm-hmm. And I Googled Hotels at Sea, and there is a website. It's god-awful looking, but it does exist, and there are allegedly trips planned for 2022. If anyone has too much money and no plans, you can go on a Hotel at Sea cruise.
So a hotel at sea isn't like somebody's boat. It's like a cruise is the idea. It's actually a cruise, or is this like a houseboat?
I'm not clear on the details. It's more luxury than that, but it's the idea that it's like a private party cruise. So you're not with the thousands and thousands of people.
So like a yacht, but for the Marriott crowd?
Exactly. That's like the tagline. It's the everyman's yacht, I guess.
There you go. Okay.
As for Michaele, she and Neil are happily married, and you can have a peek into their
I don't want to peek with any of their
posts on their joint Facebook page, which you can find on Facebook, Neil and Michaele Sean, Triumph of Love. And she doesn't do interviews anymore, but she did give a quote to the reporter that I mentioned, Luke Mullins, the Washingtonian article, which says, quote, I have been on tour 4 years now straight with Neil and haven't missed one show or moment of loving life together. Don't stop believing. Dreams do come true.
I hate everything about
the Salahis, Sean's.
You did a great job. I love that
gosh.
so much. That is wild, wild, wild. And so things I did not know at all coming into this. The biggest one is I had no idea they actually had email correspondence with anyone in the White House. That is probably the most shocking thing to me, because on the show, I watched that episode that they went to the White House like today. But anyway, I didn't realize that was what had happened. And doesn't it seem like if the first person, you should have your best security at the first stop, because it seems like after that, everyone's going to say, oh, well, they let him in, so we might be missing something.
I mean, no disrespect to this woman, but she was on the younger side. I just was like, someone more experienced at least. But how about just 6 big Secret Service guys?
Right.
That doesn't seem like a bad idea to me, to have an intimidating force at the top. I understand it's probably you want them to feel welcomed, but I don't know. Yeah,
I would think going there, you would be like, this is going to be full of security. It's going to feel a little, overwhelming and stuff, and you'd be up for it. Forget feeling welcomed. Feel welcomed
once you're inside securely with your name tag. Yeah. I know, and I was surprised by the email too. It's when I got nervous and thought, oh my gosh, am I going to find an email that's like, we'll see you at 7, Tareq. Here's your ticket attached.
Right.
There was only one attachment in this story, and it was not a ticket.
That dong.
Yeah, it was weird. They kind of are the perfect fodder for reality TV. They're designed to live their life that way.
So I remember listening to Javier's podcast with Tareq, and I'm trying to remember. I feel like that's where I heard him say that the reason that didn't get a second season was because of all the controversy, like the lawsuits and all of that going on. Am I right with that? Or because I
listened
think
to
it was just
too.
terrible ratings.
Yeah, it was probably a combination, and I don't think it was favorable for Bravo's production company to have like even been near that.
Yeah, that makes
So I'm
sense.
sure it was a confluence of events. I don't remember exactly that part of his conversation with Javier. I just remember his blind optimism and
Totally.
still his ability to laugh and be like, but, and this article that I keep mentioning talks about, hey, I mean, the stories I have now, like Letterman mentioned me, SNL mentioned me. It's like, do you realize people lost their jobs? Do you
Right.
realize that we might have for like a period of time been vulnerable to who knows what because people's
Right.
perception of our fortress around the White House?
Yeah.
Like, I just think they're so clueless about the actual ramifications. I would have loved to have just seen a heartfelt apology from them. Like, we misinterpreted an email and thought we could come as sort of a standby. Like, I could buy that. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
there'd be a lot more forgiveness. But this just doubling down,
I hate
we
it
have
so
like four
much.
different invitations in various media forms. Like, it's maddening. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if I never hear or see Tareq again, it'll be too soon. I'm like done with Tareq.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But great job. I loved it. This was a lot of fun. I
Oh,
enjoyed
good.
this
I'm so
episode.
glad. I'm so glad.
Yay.
Thank you for being on that journey with me.
Yeah.
What have you been watching other than Real Housewives of DC? Sorry for that, and thank you for taking one for the team.
Yes, I just bought one episode to watch. I did not want to do the whole season, and that was plenty for me.
Yeah.
So I will give you my 3 clues. Let me pull it up on my phone real quick. My clues are Australia, Michael, and Netflix.
Okay, this feels like I could get it.
I want you to get this.
Do you think I know
Michael,
it?
Netflix. You have heard of it, and I've talked to you about it.
Okay.
But this is my push to make you watch it.
Oh.
Do you want me to give you one more clue? Mm-hmm. Autism.
Oh. Love on the Spectrum.
Yes, love on the
I mean, you gave me like the
spectrum.
dead ringer.
I gave
clue,
you
which
basically one of the words.
I appreciate it. Oh my gosh. Wait, is the whole thing in Australia or just this particular story or
No,
episode?
I think it's done as a different show title in Australia, and then they bought it for Netflix. So they've
Oh.
had 2 seasons. It is amazing. It's a show about couples and
Yeah.
or one person on the spectrum meeting another person. There's a dating coach that talks to these people that are on the autism spectrum and kind of coaches them through what a date looks like, because a lot of them are
could
in
all
their
use that.
20s, 30s. I know. It is so amazing though, Rebekah, when you see these individuals with autism just sitting down to meet each other, and the things that matter, like that you and I know matter, they get to that so much quicker. It's just so sweet and innocent and wonderful and all the good things in the world. And you know, I'm not an all the good things in the world watch TV kind of person.
Yeah.
It pulls at your heartstrings, makes you so happy. Just there's one guy on there named Ronan. He is a ginger, and I can say that because I have a ginger husband and child, and he's so sweet and meets this girl named Katie, and he and Katie just, Katie, are you enjoying our day? Oh, Ronan, it's beautiful. And I'm not mocking voices at all. It's just like the sweetest,
It's
most
pure.
innocent, totally pure. He asked her if she wants to dance, Rebekah. And my whole brain could explode. There's somebody playing violin and they stand up and they dance, but they're not dancing together. They're both just dancing, like just the sweetest, most innocent
Separately
thing.
together.
Just my heart could explode. So my son has autism, so so it's something that I knew would be near and dear to my heart. But I refused to watch it for a while because I thought it's going to break my heart. I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. It will bring you so much happiness if you know someone on the spectrum. If you don't, it's just all the good parts of the world in this one thing. And Michael is the funniest person you'll ever see on anything ever. He's everything. If you've watched the show, you know who Michael is. He's just hilarious and funny. And last thing I'll say about it, one of my favorite things is when they decide they don't want to date somebody, they decide it's not a good match. They will be so upfront and so honest because that's all they know how to be.
Right.
And my goodness, if I could do that in my life, how much more incredible would it be? Just to be like, I want to be your friend, but I don't like you in that way. And that person's like, okay. And that's it. It's over.
Right. Oh, it's brilliant.
It's beautiful. It's so sweet. And the families on there are so supportive. And I know it's not everyone's journey with autism, but it makes me very hopeful and happy.
I can imagine.
And I love it so much. So if you haven't watched it, especially if you have a kid on the spectrum and you're kind of nervous, because I had another friend, same thing. She didn't want to watch it. And then watching it, it's just the best feeling. I love it so much.
I love your endorsement, and it resonates. I promise
This was how I was going to get you to watch it, to force you through this and to have people beat it into you from the internet.
And
to
you've got
make
witnesses.
Rebekah watch it. Yes,
yeah.
I got it.
No, I'm not resistant at all. It's just, you know how things go.
Oh,
when
totally.
you mean to watch something and then suddenly you're not.
And it's a totally different kind of show,
Yes.
so you have to really okay, I'm ready to do it. And it's not like crying all the time or anything. I have moments I've cried in that show, but it's such happy moments.
Oh
It's it's showing all the positive, and it's not all positive, but it's showing just, I don't know, just there's so much support and love, and it's beautiful. And
that's so
I'll shut
important.
up.
I'm so
I love
glad that they're creating
me too.
stories like that for people to see. It reminds me, I don't remember if I told you this, I'm sure I did. In Amy Schumer's documentary, her husband gets diagnosed with, I don't know if it's Asperger's or just autism at large. I
think
know if
it's
they
now
use
just
Asperger's
called,
anymore.
it's just called autism now, being on the spectrum.
But I loved that they included that in her doc, and I just thought, I loved that storyline, so I'm sure I will love this as well. But I thought what a great service they did by sharing that with people, because he's in his 40s, such a late diagnosis.
It was incredible.
It was, and just how Amy loves and adores him, and also was like, you got to get checked. Like, we're going to a specialist.
Totally. And it looked at more, I think now in this, it's not so much savants. You hear about savants all the time. Oh my goodness, this person's great at Rubik's Cube. And that can happen. But sometimes it's a kid literally wanting to listen to Rick Astley for no reason all the time. And you just do it because that's what, their brain is wanting to do. I don't get it, but okay. But you love them through, different things, just like you do with every kid. But anyway, it's just so, they even go through like the things this person likes before each date. Like, this person likes the smell of cut grass. This person hates when people blow bubbles. Just, whatever.
Like,
and you're
about
like,
the other person they're about to date.
Yeah. It's just kind of like their
gosh.
intro cards are kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's just sweet. I didn't mean to go on that long about it, but I hope people will watch it. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, you've done it justice, and I'm really glad that it's like being normalized too. Like,
absolutely. And
showing later parts of the journey. Like, there's a lot about kids and autism.
Exactly.
And it's just so important to see adult success
and
stories.
seeing them say, we don't want to be by ourselves. Like, because you get that feeling of isolation, but they're like, no, I want a person.
Right.
And hearing them say it is, I don't know, it just does great things for you. It's amazing.
Okay, well, mine's real different.
Leslie, hear yours. Well, this is very abnormal for me, so.
Yeah, and so is what I'm going to say. So in that sense, we're on the same page. Okay, so I've definitely had a week or two of not watching a ton of TV. I've been listening to a ton of podcasts, which is like a reverse.
Right.
Because I kind of went through like I can't listen to any more podcasts phase.
Yep, I've done the same
Then I
thing.
had to for some work stuff. So I watched a movie, which is
unreal.
I know, right? Like, who's got 98 minutes or whatever? I can watch 7 episodes of something, but the idea of committing 2 hours and 2 minutes to one story, I'm like,
way too much.
Me? You think you're that compelling?
What year is this?
But I was just, I don't even know why. I won't give you any preamble. I just stumbled upon this show this movie. And riveted. I mean, I watched it on my phone.
Whoa.
Like, in bed on my side. Okay, too much visual. Well, two of the clues are that it's a movie, not a TV show.
Okay.
It's Netflix.
Okay.
and I'm going to give you the star because I think it's newish and you might not have seen it yet. Jake Gyllenhaal.
I don't know what it is, but it was on my top 10 Netflix something. What is it?
Probably new.
Yeah.
Or just in or
Released
something,
or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah. It's called The Guilty. And
Okay.
I literally didn't know anything about it other than Jake Gyllenhaal had on a tight black polo.
Sometimes that's all you need.
I haven't seen him in a while, but he's doing well, it appears. And it just said The Guilty. And I don't know. I just clicked play and I could not put it down. I stayed up till like 1 a.m. So it's, I found out later, an adaptation from a Swedish film into English, but it all takes place in one room. He is I don't want to give it away, but he's a 911, well, he's not. So he is working as a 911 dispatch operator, but he's
Okay.
a law enforcement officer. He's a detective.
Okay.
And through the course of the film, you figure out he's doing this because he's on kind of a probation type thing.
Okay.
'Cause something kind of bad happened and it's being investigated. And he ends up in this serious high stakes phone call with a woman in a really dire situation. And I don't want to give any more away, but it is like, you know, pressure and what's the word? Suspense and all this stuff is up here. I'm reaching up.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was like, and then there's a complete plot twist. Everything we thought wasn't, isn't. And he's great in it. And there's not even any other actors. It's all voice.
Really?
I'm just now realizing that. There's like a few other people you see in the office, like on the phones, but it's literally him and then the voices of the people on the phone. And I have a feeling they maybe redid this during COVID just because it was like,
Sure.
what a great idea. And it's just such a great story, regardless of limitations for shooting. But so good. Highly recommend.
Okay.
Might be a good one to watch. Like, I don't know what kind of movies you and your husband like, but I kind of felt bad. I was like, oh, my husband would have liked this.
You're like, shh, I'm watching something over here.
I know. He's the one who told me. He's like, oh, I think that's an adaptation of the Swedish version. I was like, I know.
Already figured that out. Oh, that's
Jake's
cool.
talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really good.
Oh, nice. That reminds me real quick, because I know we've gone long today, but the episode, you and I have kind of texted about the episode of Only Murders in the Building. That was our big recommendation a few weeks ago. If you haven't been watching, oh my gosh, come back to us.
Oh my gosh, you were right. I mean, it's haunting. So, good. Tomorrow night's the new episode.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Unlike anything I've seen on TV in a very long time.
Right?
It will stay with you. It's beautiful. It's also kind of to what we were talking about with Love on the Spectrum of an alternate point of view.
Yep.
Kind of mainstreaming it and like bringing it to the forefront. I won't say more, but so good.
So good. So if you haven't watched it, please catch up with that because it's incredible. And I want to be able to post on social media about it because it was so good.
So good. Everyone's also talking about The Way Down. Everyone literally is messaging me. It's the HBO. I think.
I
Tegan
saw that.
produced
I finished it. Mm-hmm.
She's a Christian diet cult leader.
Yeah,
like, I mean, sign me up.
With this hair.
So that's yes, the hair. I mean, I am one to talk about hair tonight, but what I really want to know is what we're going to talk about in 2 weeks.
Okay, so I'm committed to this now because I put it in my phone and I've started Googling. I hope I have enough information. Yeah, and we're recording. That's the most important detail. Here are my clues. Surprise. Wait, I'll just say it like this. Surprise. Dr. Pepper and bar.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I don't think you're going to get this one, but
I don't ever get it. So,
but I do think people that have watched this show will get it.
So I haven't watched the show.
I don't think so. I feel like we've talked about it. If you have, I'm very surprised. But think outside the box a little bit. What each one of these words could mean. One of the words doesn't mean what you think it means, but you know it if you know it.
Is it the legal
bar?
bar?
Is actually a bar. No.
Bar for drinks?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Pepper is what Dr. Pepper is? No. Well, one of the rappers in Tribe Called Quest's nickname is Dr. Pepper. No?
I'm sorry. I did not reach that. But now other people will know. So
there's a lyric it's like, I drink a lot of soda, so they call me Dr. Pepper.
Yes,
So no,
I'm doing a behind the music story of that.
Wait, what was the other clue?
Surprise.
Oh, surprise. So that's not what it means?
No, that's what it means. You've already figured out there's only one.
So Dr. Pepper is not... Okay, so it's a
So
person.
now everybody has that. Now you know.
So it's a person.
Surprise, Dr. Pepper and bar.
Okay, yeah. I sometimes just feel like, I don't know, never mind. Just in the guessing of clues, it's not my forte. It's not where I shine.
No, you shine everywhere. You shine bright like a diamond, like Rihanna.
Nope. Just let it be. It's okay. It is what it is.
Well, I think I also give confusing clues, so it's not.
No, other people get them.
Yeah, that is true.
Other people get them. So I'm just going to come up with a segment where I shine.
Okay, do it.
It's going to be about 90s hip hop soda aficionado. It's a small topic, a small
Possibly
genre.
Possibly one segment.
I guess I've already covered it. All right. Well, I really do look forward to that story. It sounds interesting. I used to love Dr. Pepper, the beverage. It's too sweet for me now.
All right.
Okay, cool. Well, this was great.
Yes. Everyone have a great 2 weeks. If you haven't, please review the show. We love that. That's very wonderful. Helps people find it. If you see one of those lists that says, what podcast should I listen to? It looks kind of gross if we recommend ourselves, but like we're thinking it the whole time we see those lists.
Yeah, do it for us, please.
Do it for us. And we'll be like, oh, wow, surprise. Thank you so much. Can't believe you mentioned us. Like everybody at the Emmys. So yeah, those are good things. Rebekah, you have new episodes every Wednesday on Dialogue Podcast. All about culty cults.
Yeah, cult adjacent. We're going to be in that for another couple weeks. And you've got new episodes, Moms and Murder, every Tuesday. So we've got,
Tuesday.
a lot of content for you guys throughout the week.
We do. So don't abandon us for like Love on the Spectrum. Watch it, but also remember us.
Come back.
Yes.
Remember us. Farewell.
Farewell. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Bye.